Remember the show Animorphs and the books?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I had like 3 or 4 books. I have a fond memory of camping and reading those books for a book report while I was on vacation.
Okay, allow me to fuck that up for you.
Ooh.
Okay, here's what clearly happened in Animorphs in the pages that were not included.
Okay.
Several of these are teenage males.
Most well, there's some girls, but yeah.
But I know, but I'm saying some of them are teenage males who can turn.
One was an owl.
Okay, at least one of them had to be a dog, right?
I would say so.
That guy turned into a dog, and he had to fuck female dogs. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying he wanted to do it. I'm saying, as a teenage boy who can turn into a dog, he did it.
He might have. Does that mean the owl guy fucked a lady owl?
Maybe.
Or she-owl?
Maybe.
An owlet?
It's possible.
I don't know what you call those. When you transform into an animal, does the semen also change to animal semen? Because that's an interesting question.
Can Animorphs... We should find Ray Comfort and Ken Ham and ask them if an Animorph begets the same kind if it comes into a non-Animorph animal.
Here we go. It's the Bible reloaded, logic explosion, like Jesus and Moses, but it's Hugo and Jake. The Bible is jaded, and most of it taken, so get educated with Hugo and Jake. Pull up and stop what you're doing, it's Bible reloaded time. They call it debated, the theists will hate it, I'm talking to taken, but it's Hugo and Jake. So I'm with the show then, it's not candy coated, it's the Bible reloaded with Hugo and Jake.
Hello everyone, I'm Hugo.
And I am Jake.
And this is the Bible Reloaded.
It is.
Before we get to what happened last week, I think it's apt to talk about something that happened recently.
We should probably talk about Bill Nye and Ken Ham for a second.
Yeah, so that debate obviously happened. Hopefully you've had a chance to see it. If you guys haven't, go ahead and watch it. It is an interesting thing to watch. Go ahead and do that.
Bow ties are cool.
Yeah. So, in my opinion of the debate, obviously, I think it goes without saying, I think Bill Nye won, but I was on his side from the beginning. My thoughts on Ken Ham, though. His arguments he kept coming back to the idea that there are 2 different kinds of science, historical science and observational science, even though they followed the exact same process, and that's not how it works. But, I don't think he made good arguments at all.
I don't think so either. I think we were actually part of a debate. I guess we were moderators. We weren't part of the debate, but we were there. Between Justin Schieber, the Reasonable Doubts podcast, and against a Christian guy who was a really nice guy. But they made similar arguments, in my opinion. Every time an argument's brought up, they just say, well, I have this book right here, and it says otherwise.
It's Ken Ham, and I think a lot of creationists fall into the pit of special pleading, where they try and dig themselves out of a hole, then they put their faith or their holy book forward, and act as though it's immune to the problems of the original concept, when it's really not. When you talk about, is the universe infinite, and then you say, well, yes or no, we don't know. If you say, well, no, it can't be. God must have made it. Well, where did he come from? You're not immune. You're creating a bigger issue, and I think that's really behind a lot of Ken Ham's arguments. Yeah. He's trying to cover up holes with bigger holes.
I will say one thing, though. I believe that he believes it.
No, I certainly do.
Because I think some people, like, you see, like, Pat Robertson or the other people that just make tons of money and they seem disingenuous. Ken Ham seems like a legit guy. He seems like a nice enough guy. A little dumb, but I think he's a nice enough guy, and I really think he believes it. I just think he's bad at debating and got shown up. Yeah. A lot of people were worried about it, too. A lot of people thought, like, oh, no, don't do it.
I'd never seen Bill Nye in a debate before.
He did really well.
I think he did. I think he did a good job representing science. He was he was personable. He was nice. He kept it light. It was really good. I think he did a great job.
Okay, and then we'll wrap this up. What was the turning point, or your most memorable moment of the debate? And I'll share mine, unless it's the same thing, in which case you fucked it up. You fucked up my idea.
most memorable, the most important, the thing that stood out, I think is the same thing that stood out to a lot of people, is the end when they went over...
That was mine, too.
When they went over...
What's going to change your mind?
Yeah, what would change your mind? Ken Ham, I'll give him this, he was honest. He said nothing. He said because the Bible is what it is, and that's what his source is.
Right.
That's his big problem. He doesn't understand what science is.
Yeah.
If you're going into science, quote-unquote, saying, no, I always have to go with what this says, that's not science. Going into science of any sort, you have to be willing to say, oh, my preconceptions are wrong, I have to go with what the data says.
Right.
And he doesn't. Bill Nye's answer was honest and a very scientific one.
Well, yeah, if anything's out of place, I'll reevaluate, absolutely. But, enough of that. There's one important thing we should take away from this, though, and that is Noah had a crane when he built his ark. Anyways, so now, if you don't remember, last week,
Josh died.
We defeated Josh by way of time. He died of old age. Actually, no, he died from Rodimus Prime. But, go back to last episode. But now we're in Glorious Judges, and for those of you who follow me on Twitter, you'll know that Judges contains my favorite verse in all of the Bible, which is Judges 19. We won't get to that today, but it's coming.
Judges, Chapter 1. Israel fights the remaining Canaanites.
Those fucking Canaanites. They're everywhere.
After the death of Joshua, the Israelites asked the Lord, who of us is to go up to fight against the Canaanites? The Lord answered, Judah shall go up. I have given the land into his hands. Who among the Israelites, I assume they gotta be elders or something, asking the Lord, or did he come down to everyone like, hey guys, remember me?
I don't know, maybe he sent a pigeon with a note. Maybe someone got a pigeon with a note and they're like, what's this pigeon doing? And they read it, it's like, Judah's demand.
The men of Judah then said to the Simeonites, their fellow Israelites, come up with us to the territory allotted to us to fight against the Canaanites. We in turn will go with you into yours. So the Simeonites went with them.
The Canaanites are like, they're fucking arch enemies for some reason. There's never a dialogue in between them though. They're never like, they never sit down at the table and are like, here's why I don't like you.
It's the North and
they
South.
They just murder each other.
It's the North and South Korea of the Bible.
Who's Kim Jong-il? Kim Jong-il. They still have Kim Jong-il. Canaanite Kim Jong-il.
When Judah attacked, the Lord gave the Canaanites and Pezerites into their hands, and they struck down 10,000 men at Bezek. It was there that they found Adoni-Bezek and fought against him, putting to rout the Canaanites and Pezerites. Adoni-Bezek fled, but they chased him and caught him and cut off his thumbs and big toes.
Fucker. That'll teach him. And what does that mean symbolically, Hugo?
I researched it, and all I could find was, well, that would make it hard to do work. Like, yeah, I guess it would.
Also, Adoni-Bezek, not to be confused with Adoni-Zedek, who got murdered earlier.
Yeah. Then Adoni-Bezek said, 70 kings with their thumbs and big toes cut off have picked up scraps under my table. Now God has paid me back for what I did to them. They brought him to Jerusalem, and he died there.
Why does he have 70 other kings with the same ailment? The same malady.
I think the implication is he's just saying, I defeated 70 kings, which I assume is hyperbole. That's too many kings for one area. That the population density of kings in this area
I
is
think
out
they just
of
mean
control.
guys with homes.
So, I think he's just saying, I defeated all these people, now I've been defeated. That's fucking life, isn't it? But I'd really like to think he just has 70 people who live under his fucking table.
He's got a big table.
Like the movie, the people under the stairs who just live there and they have no thumbs and no toes.
No big toes.
No big toes.
So they can't balance. They can't, they're not good at sports because that's your thrusting toe.
It's like the dad from Moody's Point.
I've never seen that. So that's a reference that is lost on me. One of the few references that you can't get by.
Google Moody's Point, big toe. Anyways.
Wow. Alright. That's for 3
My
people.
Husband's toe!
You know who's going to get that reference? Greg Gauthier. For some reason.
Verse 8. The men of Judah attacked Jerusalem and also took it. They put the city to the sword and set it on fire. So here it's saying that they took Jerusalem, but according to the research I can find, and I could be wrong, I'm not a history guy, that's Jake's department.
But the thing is, I thought this was odd too. I have always known it to have been David's conquest. So maybe what they do is they set it on fire and they leave. But later on, like right down the page, that we're going to mention it again, and then people live there, and it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, as far as I can see on any timeline, it's about 1000 BC that the Israelites are settling in Israel.
Right. So I don't know.
What we now know today is Israel.
I did research. Hugo did research. I mean, I've done research before. But, like, if anyone knows the answer to this, let me know, because I'm confounded.
After that, Judah went down to fight against Canaanites living in the hill country, the Negev and the western foothills. They advanced against the Canaanites living in Hebron, formerly called Kirath Arba, Sheshnai, Ahiman, and Talmai.
Oh, I like that he had in there. That was good.
From there, they advanced against the people living in Debir.
I thought that was debris.
Let's go back, round 2. And Caleb said, I will give my daughter Aksah in marriage to the man who attacks and captures Kiriath Sefer.
Dad, I don't want to go.
Shut up! Barter system! Caleb's younger brother took it, so Caleb gave his daughter Aksah to him in a marriage.
Oh! That's her uncle.
Yep. One day she came to Othniel. She urged him to ask her father for a field. When she got off her donkey, Caleb asked her, What can I do for you? She replied, Do me a special favor, since you have given me land to the Negev. Give me also springs of water. So Caleb gave her upper and lower springs.
You just said springs available?
I don't know what they're doing. The descendants of Moses' father-in-law, the Canaanite, went up to the city of palms with the people of Judah to live amongst the inhabitants of the desert of Judah in the Negev near Arad.
I'm still stuck on these springs. Maybe you just gave her, like, a bottle of Ice Mountain.
Maybe.
Or Dasani.
Got it straight from the tap. Tepid.
It's tepid. That's my favorite word to describe liquid water. Tepid.
You done?
It's just such a dumb word.
Then the men of Judah went to the Simeonites, their fellow Israelites, and attacked the Canaanites living in Zephath.
You guys know where that's at, so.
And they totally destroyed the city. Therefore, it was called Hormah, of course.
Stupid.
Judah also took Gaza, Ashkelon, and Ekron. Good thing that Gaza thing settled. That'll never be an issue again. And each city with its territory. The Lord was with the men of Judah. They took possessions of the hill country, but they were unable to drive the people from the plains because they had chariots fitted with iron. Now this is a verse that comes up a lot if you're an atheist or you talk about the Bible with theists. And here it's worded a little differently. It's funny. In the earlier versions, it's worded as such. This is the King James Version and how they word it. And the Lord was with Judah, and he drove out the inhabitants of the mountain, but he could not drive out the inhabitants of the valley because they had chariots of iron.
Like kryptonite.
Yet in the new version, it implies that it's the fault of those fighting, not the Lord. It's interesting that in the newer version, they've kind of translated it, and sure, could you translate it that way? I'm sure you could, but they've clearly translated it in the way that makes it look like God no longer has some sort of weird thing against iron.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when this was written, iron was the tits. I'm sure people were like, fucking iron? I mean, that's understandable that he would have a weakness for that, but no, now it's like, fucking what?
It rusts. It's not even efficient.
Oxidation, bitch.
Steel! Like Viking swords!
Verse 20. As Moses had promised, Hebron given to Caleb, who drove from it 3 sons of Anak, the Benjamites. However, did not drive out the Jezebites who were living in Jerusalem. To this day the Jezebites live there with the Benjamites. Now the tribes of Joseph attacked Bethel, and the Lord was with them, when they sent them to spy out Bethel, formerly called Luz. Why do they keep, like, the fucking artist,
sides.
the artist formerly known as fucking Luz? No one cares. Why do we care what it used to be called? The spies saw a man coming out of the city, and they said to him, Show us how to get into the city, and we will see that you are treated well.
Why couldn't the guy just say, no, and then go back inside the city, and then everyone would be fine?
Probably because the authors are the ones who are writing this.
You might... Well, I mean, that's usually the case for most books, but I know what you're saying.
The minute I said it, I'm like, well, fuck it. So he showed them, and they put the city to the sword, but spared the man and his whole family. Again with the idea that somehow sparing this one person, by threatening him, by the way, somehow abdicates them for fucking murdering a city.
Can I just point out how wonderful the word abdicate is coming out of your mouth?
Not as...
10 wonderful.
That's good. He then went to the land of the Hittites, where he built a city and called it Luz, which is its name to this day.
Wait, it was used to... Okay, fuck it. Don't care. I don't care.
Yep. But Manasseh did not drive out the people of Beth Shan or Tanakh, Dor or Iblam or Megiddo. Megiddo?
Megiddo?
Megiddo? Megiddo?
I like Megadiddo.
I like
it sounds like a Japanese monster. No, Megadiddo!
And their surrounding settlements from the Canaanites were determined to live in that land. The Israelites became strong, and they pressured the Canaanites into forced labor, but never drove them out completely.
Happy ending.
Well, fuck.
What are we gonna do with those dirty fucking Canaanites? Well, we could drive them into forced labor.
Remember that time we were in Egypt and that happened to us, and we were supposed to not do that again? Nor did the Ephraims drive out the Canaanites living in Gezer, but the Canaanites continued to live there among them. Neither did the Zebulun drive out the Canaanites living in Kitron or Nahal. Blah, 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 blah.
So that happens for a while, and they say, we drive and don't drive people out. And then we get to Judges 2, which is called the Angel of the Lord at Bochim. Basically, an angel comes down and says, hey guys, remember all that stuff I did for you in Egypt? Cool. That's all.
Bye.
If you were to go to herdmentalitypodcast.com, you might find something along the lines of this. Great comfort. Thanks for coming on the Herd Mentality.
It's okay.
Now, you wanted to come on and clarify a few points, so let's start with our credentials. You are...
An expert on evolution.
An expert?
I've never said I'm an expert.
But you just said you were.
But I've never really found an expert.
Well, I interview them all the time.
I wasn't a whisper of scientific evidence.
So you listened to the episodes. Can I ask what you thought of Chimatai?
A tool.
Godfrey World?
Sinful lifestyle.
Dr. Dave Hawkes?
Bittersweet.
What about Atheist Mel?
This is a really funny joke.
I'm considering inviting Blessed Teen on the show.
Raging hormone.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Fornication's okay.
Matt Dillahunty?
I don't want anything to do with him.
Didn't you go on his show, though?
I don't believe in your God.
Well, I respect the guy, but I wouldn't put him on a pedestal like that.
He's a figment of imagination.
I can assure you he's real.
And that's why so many atheists are so irate.
Probably not the main reason, but you're not even making much sense here.
That's what atheism does.
So you've changed your position.
God doesn't exist.
What are you going to do?
You've got to toss out the whole Bible.
Seems a bit extreme, Ray.
I accept Darwinian evolution.
Have you considered joining a secular group?
There's no room for wimps.
Pretty sure they'll accept anyone. Okay, let's talk about you. Recently your Twitter handle was borrowed by someone else.
We're aware of that. It wasn't long ago.
What are you doing to get it back?
Absolutely nothing.
Your thoughts on the new account?
It's intellectual suicide.
Why do you say that? The new account is promoting financial donations over prayer.
Well, I think they go hand in hand.
But aren't you an atheist now?
I've never said I'm an expert.
You don't have to be. So why is it a bad thing, though?
Because of the implication that comes with it.
One final question. Rumour has it that you're working on an 8-horsepower solid gold butt plug.
Yeah.
Prototype working yet?
Yeah, it's up and running.
Your first impressions?
Salvation.
Ray Comfort, thanks for coming on the show.
Boy, that's a good question.
Thanks, Jake and Hugo. Now back to your nonsense.
A great flood is coming. We build a vessel to survive the storm. We build an ark.
And then we get to a part called Disobedience and Defeat.
After that whole generation had been gathered to their ancestors, another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. So they just stopped teaching them that.
Should we tell the kids about the fire tornado and Joseph Bones and
No, they'll figure that out. I mean,
the face melty box that we carry around?
that kind of thing happens all the time, though. So I mean, why would that stop happening all of a sudden? That would seem really arbitrary. Why would you stop providing proof for something that you need to prove to someone? That doesn't make sense. Nah. Let them watch their Teletubbies and their Rocket Power and
Their educational television programs on PBS, paid for by viewers like you.
Then the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord and served the Bales. They forsook the Lord, the God of their ancestors, who had brought them out of Egypt. They followed and worshipped various gods and their peoples around them. They aroused the Lord's anger because they forsook him and served Baal and the Ashtoreths.
So what are Bales?
They're pagan gods from other religions. I don't think how they're using it would be the correct term for the people who would actually worship Baal, because I've heard Baal used as like a proper noun, as if that is one. So I think this is more of someone who doesn't quite understand it,
Kinda
writing
like
about
Romans
it.
calling everyone barbarians.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's
what
like
I
that.
figured it was, because we did some research on this, and we found the greatest source, which was I presume a Christian writing about it. He's like, the fake gods that you can't prove, called the Bales, who aren't real. He kept like, no, they're not real.
It was
like,
weird.
We get it, guy.
Yeah.
Fucking. Like, he's worried about Bales working in on some of that Jesus action. Get off my corner.
Because...
Because...
I was thinking about Breaking Bad. In his anger against Israel, the Lord gave them into the hands of the raiders who plundered them. He sold them into the hands of their enemies all around, whom they were no longer able to resist. Whenever Israel went out to fight, the hands of the Lord was against them to defeat them, just as he was sworn to them. They were in great distress. This is like a person who gets denied, but they can't just fucking get over the person, so then they obsess over that person, then they like look at their Facebook all the time, and they're like, oh, that fucking slut, like,
yeah.
You're clearly the one with the issue, dude, like, why are you so obsessed with this people?
They call the cops on them at random times and steal their mail.
Then the Lord raised up judges who saved them out of their hands of these raiders. Judges in this context means, like, leaders.
Yeah, so, yeah, they're not like,
They're not judges as we would
like
consider.
Judy.
No, they're like leaders of the Israelites.
Although I'd let Judge Judy lead me in battle.
Yet they would not listen to their judges, but prostituted themselves out to other gods and worshipped them.
How many gods did they fuck?
7. They then turned from the ways of their ancestors who had been obedient to the Lord's commands. Whenever the Lord raised up a judge for them, he was with the judge and saved them out of the hands of their enemies as long as the judge lived. For the Lord relented because of their groaning under those who had oppressed and afflicted them.
I guess I'm not gonna let them murder you anymore.
But when the judge died, the people returned to their ways, even more corrupted than those of their ancestors.
Well, yeah, because you've ruined their society, asshole.
Following other gods and serving and worshipping them, they refused to give up their evil practices and stubborn ways. They're the stubborn ones.
They're stubborn.
Give up on the fucking Jews, asshole. Go a continent over. There's a world full of people.
There's tall white ones north. They make great warriors and cool boats. Well, they will.
Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel and said, because this nation has violated the covenant I ordained to their ancestors and has not listened to me, I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations Joshua left when he died. I will use them to test Israel and see whether they will keep the ways of the Lord and walk in it as their ancestors did.
Test.
The Lord had allowed those nations to remain. He did not drive them out at once by giving them into the hands of Joshua. So basically what's going to happen is the Lord's going to sell them into the hands of the enemies and say, fuck it, not my problem right now. You go sit in the corner and be a slave for 20 years and think about what you did. But we'll get on to how that works next time.
Alright, so you probably heard us guys talk about it. We have that Patreon page. It's our donation page that you guys can go to and support us, and so many of you have already, and it's fucking wonderful. We're up to, was it $79?
80 now.
Is it 80?
$80.
$80 per episode that we make, and if you guys continue to support us, we'll be able to do this professionally, which would be amazing. And I don't necessarily think we deserve it. Like a lot of you probably listening right now are like, what, these guys get to just sit at home and make YouTube videos and, make a living off of it? We just like making you guys laugh. We like doing the show. We think it's fun. And we also think, maybe this sounds stupid, I think it's important. I don't think anyone else reads the Bible. I don't think anyone gives it enough time. I don't think, especially people in the United States, I don't think they know enough about it to arm themselves against people trying to push it. And so we set this Patreon thing up. There's a link on the screen right now. You can click right on this screen. If we got 500 people to give us $1 an episode, which is $4 a month maximum, we could do this professionally.
Yeah.
Which would be fucking incredible.
And you know what I would want to do with some of that money? Here's a goal I have. Here's a stretch goal for you.
Mm-hmm.
Get a billboard in a super Bible Belt town that we can find. Get a billboard with the YouTube channel on it.
Yeah. For the record, if we do go professional, we'd still work as well, and we're still both going. We're going to go to school, and we're going to school, and it's not like we're just going to sit at home, be lazy, and eat Cheetos, and play video games off your guys' money. We're actually working towards things, and once we actually have careers and stuff, we start putting it all towards charity. If you pay $1, it goes to us. But you also get extras. We'll be putting extra content out on our Patreon page. It's the only way you can view it is if you're a patron. So you go there, it notifies you when shit comes up. And it'll be extra stuff like, random stuff we talk about, like at the beginning of some of these new episodes we've been doing. Really long conversations like that. Or we'll just talk about a movie we watched, or we'll just hang out. It'll kind of be like that failed thing we were going to try to do on popular culture, but it didn't work out because we don't have time. But it'll be stuff like just Hugo and I, hanging out, and it's a way to thank you guys. There are higher levels too, where you can get like free Bibles, free t-shirts. We'll fly you out to an atheist convention. We'll come hang out with you. Stuff like that. So give it a thought. If it's not for you, that's cool. In no way do we want it if you can't afford it or don't want to.
Yes, everything he said, but from my mouth.
Yeah. So that's the pitch.
Yep.
We'll mention it every once in a while, but...
Yep, so you can follow us on Twitter, @BibleReloaded and @HugoReloaded. I think that's it. I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this has been the Bible Reloaded.
And next week, we do a 2-man flash mob, which is basically just 2 guys dancing in a Wendy's. You know what they didn't have that they should have had?
What?
Manatee.
Manatee? That's the Aquaman of Animorphs. It's not going to get anything done. Oh, there's aliens. Stop them.
I'm going to turn into a manatee, and then I'm going to get hit by a boat in a shallow river.